So my name is Tiina, and I'm founder and CEO of a company called Gajatri Studios, and this is a small game studio that I founded 2011 September. And before that, I've been a CEO in 2 small game studios here in Helsinki, and then before that I have 11 years of corporate career in Nokia and TeliaSonera, and since kind of the 99 I've been involved in mobile publishing, so I've been one of the 8 people founding Sonera Z, so the first real crappy mobile games, porn logos and ringtones. So 99 I found my calling, and this is the kind of the, where it has basically led me. So because I think it's a quite funny story that's kind of how it started. So most money we made by selling a logo called On Top. You can imagine the rest. But pretty much kind of, looking at the business then, looking at the business now. So when we talk about self-publishing and when we talk about free-to-play, there are some things that are better now, 15 years later, some things that are worse. So when we consider kind of game design and tablets and platforms, things are better. Obviously the devices are better and everything, kind of product-wise, it's much easier to develop and to do. When we consider publishing, not necessarily. Let's say that at the times that the mobile operators were kind of carriers and distributors in the business, what was easier was marketing and publishing of the products, because basically you could calculate all of your media choices and everything very wisely. So we knew already 99 that if we spend €1 to marketing, how much money that makes us back pretty easily via 150 different media choices that we were utilizing in publishing. So that's kind of how this world goes. Some things change and for the better, and some things change for the worse. So one of my kind of curious findings from yoga retreat go-to-market during the 6 months has been that actually publishing is more difficult and the product creation is actually easier. So that's where, like at this very moment, I would say kind of the state of the business is. So my dream was to start a studio that focuses on authentic well-being games. So games that are games with games, mechanics, monetization models, distribution channels, but also games that have some type of authentic content elements, meaning that are not invented. In case of yoga retreat, basically some daily meditations, yoga pose practices and stuff like that. So this is me, and this is kind of where it all started. And then maybe a few words for those people that are considering some point becoming entrepreneurs, starting a product from scratch. I think everything in the go-to-market phase will be a lot easier if there are really good answers already in the beginning of the project to a couple of questions. So what's the target audience? What's really the focus of this product? Is the market size big enough? So is it really big enough? Or is this what many people call a niche? You can call it a vertical, but then some other people will call it a niche. How are you different from 2 million other games and apps that are basically out there in all of the distribution channels? And why anyone would or should care about your product? So you tend to be very biased about your own ideas and concepts and games, and everybody is making the, the most, wonderful thing. However, from player consumer point of view, what is the story around your product that, makes people interested when they see the icon in the App Store? Or is it just the big eyeballs in the App Store that, make people then try it out and never return after the first day? And then how to reach the target audience really. So it really doesn't, take you anywhere that you make a product which nobody finds. So what it in practice you need to do, you need to also integrate all of the advertising networks and make clever strategies in terms of, how are you going to reach the players that you want to reach. And while considering all of this, what I strongly suggest is that there needs to be a really good punchline for every project that really sustains from the early days to the later days of the product. What is the message and why is this relevant? Why is this product something that your target audience should be interested in and find relevant? If you have good answers to these questions, this is what I thought, that yes, we have, and so we started. Basically around 12 months ago, the iOS development project. Then people really differ in how they see the alpha and the beta and the product and whatever. So many people like to do really longer projects that are really polished when you take them out. And then other people are more in a hurry, like myself. So I tend to kind of bring always the products too early to the market because I like to get the statistics and I like to kind of, then really see what needs to be done, because effectively what happens is that, you can stay in your meeting room and, figure out a perfect world, and then that perfect world never happens, because when you start to get the player statistics, then that really shows, what are the issues that, you need to fix, and also what is going well. Always at the stage when you release in one market and start your pilot, then the situation is that some things are working and some things are not. Both are important to recognize in terms of how to go forward. And people always talk about this kind of retention, and in practice, kind of, there are so many ways that, what can be done. So many people say that, okay, if you don't achieve with this product, let's say 35% first day retention and 20% 7-day retention, it's not a project or product that you should continue to develop. You should take it out from the market, either change the core mechanics or then do something else, start from scratch or whatever. However, what if you have tried a wrong target audience, a wrong advertising network? So currently, if we only talk about, let's say, mobile video advertising, there are, 10 different networks, at least, that, have significant, video user bases. They have very different kind of products where they show the video ads. So part of the equation is obviously to try to figure out which mediums you are trying with, which have relevant target audience for your product. So I think one of the first kind of issues was that, so I was not so happy with, the yoga retreat retention when we first put it out in Canada. And then I realized that, holy shit, I actually need to try out 15 different networks in order to have kind of proper statistical evidence that I've driven multiple different kind of target audiences and age groups. And now I can say that it took us at least 3 months to recognize, who are really then kind of the core, the people that this product keeps. So, who like farming, who like city building, who like yoga, and how do you reach those people via the tools that you have in use. So not something that, came to my mind when I kind of threw out the first version of the alpha and started the first campaign, that actually I need to carve out the people, the right people that this product is actually made for. So maybe something that, when somebody discusses retention and then, somebody says that first day 40% and 7-day 20% and 30-day 10%, and then that's kind of where you're left with. But then what I say is also that to whom is your product for? Go try out with the right audience. So if you are kind of marketing the yoga retreat type of product to hill climb racing people, you obviously understand that the retention is not very good. So many things to think about how you then, when you reach this phase, how do you then kind of start to try out and really identify that have you been right or wrong when defining your target audience. Then, so also kind of, what has been a new thing with Yoga Retreat compared to some other projects and games that I've been involved with is that as the kind of the platforms have evolved is that it really kind of in free to play this trialing and piloting takes longer. So earlier it was pretty much in a way that you could say that, hey, we put alpha or beta out and then it's 2 or 3 months that we tweak and then we can worldwide launch. So this has been my experience earlier. Now, that anyway, the Ltv requirements, so the lifetime value, what you need to get out of your users is so high in order to kind of break even with the user acquisition costs. This means that the actual go-to-market period, in my opinion, when I look around what people are doing with free-to-play, so not only us with the Yoga Retreat, it's longer. So, and it gets longer and longer. So this means that, like you might do 8 months until you reach the beta, and then you need to prepare for, 6 to 8 or something like that to be out in few markets in order to actually fix everything so that the game works monetization-wise and so on. So this is maybe something that, because what I realize is that when I talk to people, they get surprised when I say these kind of numbers. And, to me, then having done also many types of B2C and consumer services, I'd say that they are not so huge. However, but because gaming business used to be working differently, then this is kind of something what the practical reality is. So, since this is kind of a business course and people are business owners and budget owners and project managers and future entrepreneurs, then what it really means is that you need to fund for this amount of months and time and resources and teams. So this is also something that, why in free-to-play world, I think, the one-man shows are going to be extensively difficult. So don't try out cowboy stunts in free-to-play, figure out, some other platform or some other way if you want to do that kind of business on your own. So that's maybe something. So in terms of if there are people with technical backgrounds, what it means really is that, at least, every 3 weeks or so, you need to squeeze out a new build. And, it's pretty hard work and it needs to be kind of planned well. And then obviously, as we all know, statistics only points out the problems and then you need to figure out the solutions, and not every build you make the right choices, which means in the next build, you may be fixing with 2 builds the similar stuff that you found out. So that's kind of the practical reality that analytics actually, it doesn't really take you anywhere. You still need to innovate on, how are you fixing this math factory if the current mechanics, how it's been designed, seems to be too boring or with longer waiting times, and then fix it and then certify it. And then if your fix doesn't work, then make a better fix with the next build, which means that actually the time that you spent, obviously you fixed also some other things, but was actually 1.5 months. So this is where the time goes. Okay. So my recommendation in terms of the pilot is also not to use only one market, but to use, let's say, one English-speaking market, then to use something in Europe, which enables you to get the grasp of the user acquisition costs and how they vary, because that's important for your business model. So let's say if you only try out in Australia, or you only try out in Canada, and then you try out only with this one network, with this target demographic, with this iPad version. So you actually get to understand if this is the world where, and there are the networks, you get to understand this piece, which may not be statistically relevant for your business calculation in terms of what will be your real user acquisition cost, what you need to be prepared to pay for. So this also varies quite a lot. And that's kind of part of the go-to-market phase, to actually then try to find out the right balance between what you get out of one daily player, what that makes you over the course of the lifetime. Some games have 60 days, some games have 90-day lifetime. Determine what is the lifetime in the first place for your product, then make the calculation that, hey, daily player makes this much, lifetime counts to this much, what it actually means that I can spend in terms of acquiring all the people that I need to acquire. So in terms of competencies, so you guys have been talking about strategy, business models, money making, so it doesn't really get you long enough if you can code and do graphics. So nor if you can code, do graphics and design. You also need to serve the customers and then integrate the networks and play with these marketing folks and create your creatives in terms of ads. So this is kind of a fully fledged small business that you are actually running on top of a virtual platform, and you need to understand the details how to do that, and therefore kind of the questions in the first place, that to whom this is for, and why this is unique and story like that is important. So day 1, day 3, day 7 retention for me, average revenue per daily player, and then determining if the life cycle estimate is 60 days or 90 days. That's kind of something that you really figure out in this go-to-market trial that you are running. And obviously your objective is that the lifetime value is larger than the user acquisition cost, because basically that's where your margin lies. Okay. So you have at least equal lifetime value to user acquisition cost. So let's say that your souls cost 2.5 euros to me, and then I manage to kind of reach a point that I get 2.5 euros from your souls back. So at this point, I think it's pretty safe to launch then a product, because with that type of product, you will also get some device manufacturer love for sure. So things to consider. In the App Store environment where we currently live, which will change. So in 3 years' time, we will live in another environment. So we lived in Facebook 3 years ago. Now we live in app stores, and then market will figure out some other ways that to which we will make products 3 years from now. But I think these are then pretty much the same, similar type of considerations that when you launch and when you bring out your product, whether it's app stores or some other platforms, where do you get the initial boost? Especially in the case of iOS and the App Store environment, this is really important, because the App Store, there is a formula which basically either then starts to kind of raise your product in the rankings or does not. And the formula Apple makes a lot of money from in-app purchases, so obviously the formula most likely is very skewed in terms of monetization. So not only how many people install your product, but actually how many people pay and how much. So people say that at least something like 40% of the formula comes actually from the monetization variables that the iOS store somehow calculates and stuff like that. Who knows? If you get some organic lift in the beginning, it's very good, for the reasons that when you get really big organic lift, you don't need to spend actually so quickly so much in terms of how to keep your product at the ranking and in the listings. So this is definitely something to kind of try to think strategically for. So where do you get this initial boost? Because you never can kind of guarantee that you will get Apple love. You can try your best, but you can never guarantee it. So it's better to have some alternative plans, some partnerships, really big budget, whatever. But somewhere you need to get really big initial boost. In terms of advertising channels that I also talked about, they have diminishing returns, which means that, let's say you have 15 different networks and start to drive campaigns on Thursday. So the first days obviously are really good, and then kind of their metrics starts to go down, which means that you need to actually have portfolio of things where you actually drive the players, and that you are then constantly changing the campaigns in different markets and in different tools. You need virality and you need word of mouth. And then when we talk about this, I think kind of what I see in terms of games is that the viral ideas tend to be artificial. So they are not really the types of viral ideas that what people really like to share. So we all make the same viral features. I reached this level, I completed this pose in our case. But really this is something that many games companies, including ourselves, we can continuously improve in order to kind of how to be genuinely viral. And then not necessarily in free-to-play, but generally there are also some brands and some other things. Very good wine bottle for you. Can I have a wine bottle? Yes. Like, can I have a mini bar? Good. And then in terms of the PR, so I always put it last and use the two kind of words for it, because many people kind of tend to think that games marketing is only PR. But actually, all of the stuff that we've kind of gone through is games marketing to me. And then PR can support these types of actions, what you need to take. And it can be very beneficial for your device manufacturer relationship and stuff like that. But it will never make these things happen. You need to have kind of a separate plan for every bullet point. And I think kind of my current experience in terms of concrete numbers is that when platforms mature, the user acquisition costs rise. So what we see now is that people are, you need to reach a certain LTV, but it is safe to assume that towards the end of the year, next year, the prices are not going down, because competition in terms of offerings is going up. So this generally means, and there are more providers, so this generally means that high quality traffic will continue to cost. So.
But it's still doable.
Yeah, but it's hard work. And so that's why I'm saying that it will take more time. Yeah. And people need to prepare for that.
But it's worth it.
Yeah, let's see. But from that point of view, if really kind of the figures are currently that you need to get kind of $3. I need to get $3 from you in your lifetime if, when you're in my game. So to design for $3 is a task that, should not be ignored from the early on. So I think that's the point, that, when you are kind of going through all this trouble, all the development, all the go-to-market, I think it's a fool's game.
Yeah, and you have to know all of this, but it's still worth it, the hard work. You can make it.
Well, for some products, yes, and for some products, no. So this is also something that, you need to build the gates, in my opinion, kind of do throughout this whole process that, should you continue, should you stop, should you continue, should you stop? Does it look like that, you are able to kind of carve out enough money or not?
Can you use Chartboost or Playhaven to acquire users?
Yes.
But there's no differentiation what kind of users you get there.
Yes, there are some. So this is still early days of the tools. Yeah. So Facebook runs the best possible tools. All of the others are way behind. In Chartboost, you can kind of download the knowledge where the clicks came from, which will help you to a little bit see what type of traffic they are getting. But really kind of the advertising, I think, some of I don't name, but I had a colleague who said that, App Store is an environment where at least kind of the sellers of the ammunition will always win, meaning that the ad networks currently are the ones that are winning, like big. And then one of the things what I'm trying to do, since we are a smaller project with smaller funds, so I'm trying to buy traffic directly, so kind of leaving the margin. The ad net, so yes, we are using all the ad networks and blah blah blah, but I'm also trying to kind of prepare for the launch in a way that I will bypass the advertising network margin totally. So buy directly, because then I get cheaper prices and stuff like that.
How can you buy directly?
You can go to people who have the type of traffic in their applications and services, and then you can say that I will pay you this much per eyeball.
How much CPI cost you have managed to decrease during the different campaigns?
We have large variation. So, it's really, really large, and CPC we haven't done in the pilot at all. And currently we are starting the first CPMs now. So from CPC I really don't know enough, but let's say with the CPI we vary between 1.3 until 3. In different markets, in different networks, in different days, different weekends cost different, but that's the kind of the...
What kind of volumes can you get with those prices?
Sorry?
What kind of volumes can you get? Like how many installs per day can you get with $1.3 or $3?
Depends. So, let's say the different networks, you can get hundreds of players at least. So, but then when you throw bigger numbers at launch, you need to have a cleverer plan than, to use 10 grand for Facebook. That's, I think, my intake from this slide.
So what is your main? Is it Facebook now, or is it direct user acquisition?
I do everything, as I said. So we have different kind of campaign formats and tools integrated for the launch. And then, the plan is pretty much 10 different things to do when is the time.
Okay. Are you trying to find one main way?
Most likely, during this year, I will end up spending 70% of the budget into one tool. That's how it currently looks like, based on what type of monetization figures we get. So, but then again, I don't know yet, but that's my current, my feeling, so to say, my intuition that, if I look at in December 2014, how kind of the split has gone between different, that's most likely how it will go.
And what tool is that? Yeah.
For us, for a women game, what would you think? Yes. Okay, so, but you know the retention numbers, and you kind of know some practice, and I think it's really hard work to get to $3 LTV. We are not there yet, but we are over 2. So from kind of personal experience, I can tell that, if you have a lot of persistence, even with small resources, you can work your way up. But I don't recommend it for the if you really have, if you really, at some point, you need to kind of then decide that will you go through all this trouble even though it takes you 12 months, or, will you use kind of your ammunition to something else? And then that's also something that I strongly recommend people to consider when they think about where to kind of use the time and money and effort and people and make these managerial and entrepreneurial decisions. So questions, I would be happy now because this is kind of framework. So